Oh, we have froze. Hey, Alyssa. Hey, did we meet at the last meeting? I can't remember.
Yes.
Oh, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Thank you.
It feels like it's been forever since we've met, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I know.
I'll wait till 6 for us to call this meeting. Okay, it's 6 o'clock on my computer. I don't know about y'all, but let's get this party started, shall we?
Yes, indeed.
I think Eric, it's on you to do roll call, correct?
I can help out in the meantime.
All right, thanks, Kim.
Hey, no problem. Also, when Eric gets on, he's awesome. He's going to be our new city clerk, and he's fantastic. And he found out on Friday that he's part of this group, so we're excited to have him.
All right,
All right. So, Commissioner Dean,
here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Cockrum,
Here.
Commissioner Neidigger,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Shooty. Shoot. All right, Heidi.
Katie Schulten here.
Yes. Schulte? Schulte, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
I think that's us.
The group's here.
Yeah, look at us. So I know that one of the things that we had talked about is doing a little bit more in terms of introductions. I mean, Tammy joined us kind of later in the game, and I know our last meeting we had the presence of the city manager as well as the city attorney, so we didn't get a chance to do kind of a better introduction, right? So if everyone can just say, you know, I guess what you do in your time outside of the HRC, whatever you feel comfortable disclosing, and what brings you to the HRC? Why did you get involved? Is there anything else you wanted to know, Tammy?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, Tammy, do it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Met a few of you at the last meeting. I'm Tammy Cockrum. I have what I do outside of HRC. Well, I'm retired, so I do more volunteer type work. I'm on the board of Chance, and I start hospice training in February, so that'll keep me really engaged. I've worked a lot with our homeless community. And what brings me to HRC is that the majority of my career has always included an equity component for local government, City of Hillsborough and Washington County. And that included both internally and externally. So internally, really focusing on how are we creating safe space and being very intentional to our communities that have historically and continue to be marginalized and oppressed, and to try and diversify our organization so that we're serving our entire community. So that was a lot of my work. And then externally, it was really engaging with our communities of color, our religious communities, our Muslim community. There's a lot of anti-Muslim issues going on at the time. And so really making those connections, our Buddhist community, and then just trying to connect those communities and organizations with the city to make relationships so that when the city would start doing work, especially community engagement, we already had partners and relationships out there in the community that would make that happen. So that's why I'm here with HRC, to see if I can lend any help to the work of Albany.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and go next. So outside of my time with the HRC, by day, the thing that pays my bills is I'm an instructional designer with a tech company. And so making curriculum on how to use certain technologies. I have a like what draws me to the HRC, what drew me to the HRC is I worked in public education for over 15 years and really saw the importance of equity in doing that work. And, you know, I think schools are so often a really good kind of window into a community, right? And so, you know, prior to moving to Oregon, I was a public school teacher in Queens, New York, which is the most ethnically diverse county in the United States, um, and saw how important it was that the schools and the local community really supported equity as a primary like a primary focus, particularly because we had such a diverse neighborhood. And so I'm really drawn to doing this in Albany because this is where I live, you know, and I want to know that this is a community that I feel like I belong to and that others feel like they belong to, by showing that we have a commitment to making this the most the most rich and not I'm not talking about money, but rich in terms of the experiences that we bring and the fact that those experiences are honored.
Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, my name's Robin Davis. I'm been on the commission a while. I think it's the middle of my second term. I am a business owner. I work freelance primarily in the public safety and mobile technology space, and I have for the last 8 years or so. And beyond that, what attracted me to work with the city is I have a passion for democracy in its lowest levels, and I have a firm belief that everyone needs to be representative. I'm a member of you know a community myself that is often underserved, and so I get to exercise some of my talents in that respect in this group. So, anyways, that's me. Thanks.
I can go next. So my name is Alyssa, and I by day work at the ATI 34th operations. We are a titanium manufacturing facility, and for my entire career, I've worked in primarily male-dominated spaces and seen just how valuable diversity and inclusion can be. And I have lived in Albany for about 9 years now. And for the longest time, my husband and I kept telling each other, like, why aren't people doing this? Why aren't these programs being, supported? Why aren't we seeing certain groups? And then we realized that if we want to see change in Albany, we have to do it. And so I really wanted to be a part of a community group and a government group that can help be that change that we wanted to see in Albany with inclusion and diversity.
Thanks, Alyssa. Just so you know, it was very hard to hear you at the end. And so just for the rest of the meeting, I don't know if there's something that you're able to adjust, just so we can hear you a little bit better.
Okay, is this better?
Better, yeah.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
That would probably leave me last. So Edie Schulte, I'm the weird one with the weird name with all the silent letters. And if it's supposed to be silent, you pronounce it. If it's not, you don't. All those kinds of things. So Edie's odd. In my daytime world, I work in transportation and agriculture. And I take care of trucks and people and human resources and all of that kind of stuff for a family farm. And the rest of my world and why I got involved here is because I had focused when my children were small at doing all the things that's focused around them. So being involved in their school and the community that basically circled around them and all the things they were doing. And now that they are adults and out and on their own and perfectly marvelous and successful human beings, I could take some time to go, which things do I really want to become involved in? And that's how I bumbled along this way.
All right, I'm Jamie. Outside of HRC, I'm a mostly stay-at-home mom these days. I've got 9, 7, and 2.5-year-old, so we're pretty busy. I have a passion for youth programming, so I've worked in youth camps and Girl Scouts. I'm also a Girl Scout leader. What brought me to the HRC is that time period when in the HRC history when there was some controversy going on, and I thought, I can do better than that. And yeah, so I put in an application.
All right. And Kim, I know you are Kim and Eric, you are assigned to us. So I don't know if you made, I hope we know that Eric is now the city clerk, and Kim, we know you're the Parks and Rec director. So oh, hey, Eric, do you want to say
Hey
anything
everyone,
more to
sorry
us?
about the beginning. I was good to go and then I started having some audio issues, so had to switch to a second machine. But yeah, as mentioned, I've recently taken over for Gina, so I will be clerking the meetings for you guys. I'm really excited to be here, and seems like you guys are involved in some fun activities and things. And yeah, a little bit about me. I've been in government for the better portion of 10 years, different locations around the state. And yeah, really excited to be here with the city of Albany and clicking your meetings.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Welcome. We're glad that you're joining us. So I think at this point, Kim, was there any business from the public? Nobody wrote in anything? Okay. So that leaves us with the approval of the October minutes. So October 22nd minutes. So anyone wanna start a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
All right, Jamie. Anyone want to second Jamie's motion?
I second that.
Thanks, Alyssa. All in favor of approving these minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, and it looks like nobody is opposing this, so great, thank you. So on to scheduled business. At our last meeting, we got a chance to talk with the city manager, city attorney, and Kim about both river rhythms and summer sounds. Kim, you want to give us any updates? I saw some of the stuff that Parks and Rec is doing, but please update us.
Sure. So thank you. We've checked quite a bit of them already off, which is lovely. So first off, we sent a survey out. You guys had the opportunity to take it as kind of our beta testers, which we appreciate. And then we also had it translated into Spanish and put it out. So we got 489 responses back from the community. So, that's a fit. That's awesome. Like incredibly awesome. And so we got some from the rankings. I think we're probably going to share this on our social media as well, but it just with the holidays things get lost, so we're planning on saving it for a little bit later. But rock and pop were the top, which for a community that I'm still getting to learn after 5 years. I was always heard country is king. Well, country came in like tied for third through sixth. So it was good. We got a nice range, blues, R&B, hip hop, folk, reggae were some of the ones that we got a little bit additional clarity on, which is good. We got, how many people submitted? 238 people submitted possible groups, which ranged anywhere from, a family member that plays at one of the local breweries to Chris Stapleton. And so it has just been fabulous to read them over. And even if we aren't able to afford, we did reach out to our booking agent and just picked out like a couple from some of these and said, can you just give us a smattering as to like what these folks cost? And whoo, we had to gird my loins as folks who were like $100,000 more than they were like 10 years ago. And you're like, oh my goodness. So that's okay. We're thrifty. We're trying to figure out what to do. But it gives us an idea of types, which is very helpful. So as much as we're probably going to try to find names that were actually on the list, we're going to do what we possibly can. But I feel like 500 people providing feedback is really tremendous for something that we're very excited. So thank you for that recommendation. So some of the information that has come out, a lot of folks were asking for like more local or regional bands. And we had talked about this prior, and we've made the decision and we've shared with our current sponsors, but it hasn't necessarily gone, super public yet, is that we're going to be taking Summer Sounds, which is our Monday series, and we're going to be taking a break from it this year and figuring out how we can better use those resources instead of two kind of similar events at the same location, and potentially taking more local, regional, cultural music to our parks in the future. So that way people will have an opportunity to walk to their neighborhood park and have an evening of free music that maybe we wouldn't have been able to financially support, or, that would have just cost too much in time, resources, and staffing if we put it on the big stage. So we're going to take a break this year from it so we can figure out what our budget situation looks like and just kind of get a good sense of how we can make this successful. So we've shared that information. Like I said, that Summer Sounds is going to be retired with our sponsors, and are still kind of getting feedback and having those conversations. But after the new year, it'll probably be more general information. But we are looking at some other programs. Summer Sounds was a wonderful program. It was formerly Mondays at Monteith, but our attendance was just going down after COVID, as well as sponsorship. And so how can we use the money that we were putting towards that series to better serve folks across Albany and in different pockets, and provide a little bit more of a diverse offering. So wanted to let you guys know that is something that's happening. As far as working on the contract, we have a contract that we sign with our performers, and then we have an addendum that we ask them to sign, which included our family-friendly language. This year, hate speech and threatening or inciting violence is prohibited will also be included in the language, so that is taken care of. We are going to work. We talked at the last meeting about pre-announcements and post-announcements with, the thoughts and feelings of actions of performers do not necessarily match with that of the city. Beforehand isn't a problem at all. We'll have signage on site at our entrances and our exits. Afterwards, I was like, sure, we can play it afterwards. And they were like, the reason why we don't have music is because they start breaking down immediately upon the act going out. So that was my naivety. So we won't have announcements after the event, but as folks are leaving, they will see that language as they leave on signage. We talked about doing a survey, and we're totally up for it. So we probably won't start working on questions until we get in the spring a little bit, but we love the idea of HRC members coming, if you're interested, and volunteering as greeters to welcome people as well as thank them as they're exiting. And I've even chatted with Matt to be like, can we get t-shirts that say HRC? Like, just so that way you guys are more easily visually present. And people will be like, yes, I have a question. I want to go to you. Hopefully not all about our concerts, but about everything that city government does. So we've checked off quite a few boxes. We're in the process of looking through sponsorships and all that kind of good stuff. So we still need to connect with some of our friends at the hack to see if maybe they have any businesses they can help give us a soft handoff to, or, just help to educate us about. But I feel good based on the conversation that we had. We've been able to take some concrete steps moving forward. Any questions on that?
This is great, Kim. I just want to say, like, I'm really glad that I was so happy to see that survey go out, and then not only to see it go out to us as kind of like a pilot group, but to see to see the like call to do the survey in a number of different places. Like it was, and maybe it's just because I was like more attuned to it, but I was like, look at Parks and Rec doing this, so that was really great to see. And I know there were a number of people who said to me, like, I'm so glad that they asked us about this.
It's a change of community. And so I think it'll be something that potentially every year or maybe every other year to kind of keep, but by budget cycle, it up. But yeah, it was lovely to see how many people shared it. We had the hack, several members from the hack filled it out before it was like public, and then they were like, oh no, does this mean it's not? And it's like, no, all that data is still ours. Like, we've got all the information you provided. So yeah, it was good. It was very good. So thank you for being a part of this process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Kim,
sorry.
can I just share that I had talked to the hack and let them, and we were talking about this survey and just how appreciative they were that the survey was going to be going to the hack. So, I mean, just that inclusion part, I think was awesome. And it's nice to hear that several of them filled it out. So that's great.
It was great.
And I will just say, Kim, that, as kind of we get closer to the season, we had talked before about doing like having an exit survey QR code posted, similar to what they did at Festival. And I'm hoping that that's still kind of on the radar, because I do think that it's so like, this is a great start to have that survey, and just for your planning, for the justification to sponsors, things like that, to be able to say like, oh, actually after this show we had this kind of satisfaction rating, etc. I think it'll just be helpful in keeping that feedback loop.
And absolutely, I forgot to mention that. So yes, we're going to be coming up with those questions in the spring. And so we will have QR codes out there. And if you all are interested in volunteering, we're trying to figure out something that you'd be able to have a clipboard to be like, hey, let us know, to actually have something that you could have them scan and walk away with.
My former 7th grade teacher heart is like, give me that clipboard.
I want it. I always want at it could be a fan. My suggestion for Art and Air was that we have QR codes on one side for information and the other side of Venmo donate, and that we can fan ourselves as we wait, because it is hot these days. So maybe we'll work our magic this year.
I love this.
So at summer camp, we put them on the back of our clipboards so we could hold them up and people could do their scans. But I do like the fan idea.
Fan and scan. Why not, right? Awesome. Any folks want to say anything else about this, like follow up to this?
I know you can't tell us who, but do you have any like confirmations ready to go?
We've had a couple sent our way that some were out of our price range, and some we didn't necessarily feel like we're going to be a good fit with some of the feedback that we've gotten. We've put out, I believe, one offer, but that was a couple weeks ago, and we actually haven't heard back. So we don't know if we're just stuck in the holiday vortex or what's going on. So we're licking our wounds a little bit, but that's okay. We'll be back at it. We'll have a season. We'll have 5 concerts going into the next show. I do want to share, I don't know if this is important or not, but we will not be having a show the first week in July because it is the 5th, the 3rd or the 4th of July. Anyways, it's too close to the holiday and we don't have holiday show money, as fireworks cost a lot as well as performers. So, and that's not necessarily a precedent that we've been able to set in the past. And so while it was lovely that we had a community fireworks display, unless council decides to do something different, our first River Rhythms is going to kick off the next Thursday. So we'll have 5 concerts and then we'll roll right into Northwest Art and Air. So it's going to be a very densely packed summer.
Well, I'm going to clear my calendar, make sure that I get to fan and scan. So thank you so much for that good work that I know your department has been doing, and really hearing that feedback, Kim. I think that's like really important for our community to see. And so just kudos to you all, and thank you for being willing to hear some of that difficult feedback at times. Okay, items for joint meeting with city council. I know we were initially scheduled to have that at some point in July, and then with the change up of membership on the HRC, that got pushed back. I think it's still really important that we keep this on the agenda and that we look to do this as soon as as soon as we know who is on the HRC for 2025, because we're somehow there.
City
So
council?
what's that?
Were we waiting for city council?
We were
The
waiting for city
elections, yeah.
council, but we
Okay.
also,
Right.
HRC, I know like my term ends at the, on December 31st. And I think a couple other folks in here, your term is up. So unless you applied to return, or, that there will likely be some change in the HRC lineup. And so Kim, off the top of my head, do you know, I know my term expires.
Sure. So Allison, Tammy, and our vacant position are the three that we're rotating through.
Okay.
So I know that applications are coming in. I've seen several for vacant positions, and that I believe council members start to look and make their recommendations between now and the end of January. So until then, even if you're going off and you decide, please continue to come until you have been replaced. If you decide not to reapply, as that it still counts towards our quorum. And so, yes, we were, there's potentially, there was potentially half brand new council. And with new HRC members and just a lot of change and transition, the conversation was to kind of hold tight until we know who the people on the dais are going to be for at least the next 2 years, potentially 4 and beyond. So, and I think we talked about maybe like a joint meeting, but I know that I'm also the staff liaison for the Arts Commission, and they did like a presentation that worked out really well. And so they, took 15 minutes and they kind of talked through a little bit about what their history was, what some of their stumbling blocks are, what they would like to do, and then asked for council to kind of provide some additional recommendation at that time, and that seemed to be a pretty good way to attack things.
And that was
So
at a council meeting?
it was
like
at a work session on a Monday.
Oh,
So
okay.
yes, they gave a presentation and kind of talked through things that way. So I don't know if maybe that's the best first step, and just kind of getting in front of folks and saying, here's a little bit about our history, here's some things that we want to do, here's some things that we're running into challenges. I don't know. So I might see if I can get a little bit of additional information once we get our new council seated and figure out what the recommendation is. But at this time I would probably plan for some time to have you all, well, at least one representative of this group in front of council, probably in February or March.
Okay. Hey, Kim, does people typically do they reapply only when their term ends? Is that how that works for citizen advisors? Okay.
Yep. So, Robin, it looks like we've got you through this time next year. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, next year will be your year that you're going to want to put that application back in.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Does someone remind us that it's time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
At least I 99% yes, based on the work, the person who I know who's the liaison. But
I
yes,
think I remember getting
Yeah.
that last year.
you should get a reminder. But with that said, I also will wait until we have a full appointment before we re-elect chair and vice chair. So Robin and Allison, thanks for sticking with us for a couple more months. If you were planning on changing, if not, awesome, smooth as silk. But just want to let you know you'll continue to serve in your roles until we have a full group.
Great. One of the things that because this has gotten rescheduled, pushed back so many times that Kim, if you feel that that is the most expedient first step is for us to follow the footsteps of the Arts Commission and do something akin to that, I think that it makes a lot of sense. And so I'm wondering if we can take a few minutes, since we won't be meeting again for like a month and like 5 weeks, maybe, right? 5 or 6 weeks. If we can take a little bit of time to just hash out a couple of those things that we want to bring to council in a kind of presentation to just get the ball rolling, and then maybe we can talk about, are there a couple of folks you want to develop something a little bit more comprehensive to be able to bring to a council work session?
What is is this council actually? I know they've had their work session this month. Have they actually had their meeting?
Their meeting is tomorrow night, starting at 6, and then due to the holidays and just workload that's coming through, the next meetings won't be until the new year with the new council. So tomorrow will be the last one with the current sitting council.
Got it.
So one thing I know that we talked about was, and this, like, I'm thinking back to a previous issue that was brought to our commission, that Miriam brought because it was forwarded on to her. So there was somebody who had an incident where they felt like they were experiencing racism, and that person, it wasn't Miriam, somebody had reached out directly to the mayor, and the mayor forwarded the email to Miriam. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but this is what I recall. Okay. And so that brought up this discussion of, okay, if the mayor is directing this to us and without real clarity on what we're to do with that, we need to better understand what the expectation is of city council for this commission in actually not only addressing citizen concerns or community concerns about this kind of behavior, but also what's the agency that this commission has, if the person who's leading our city is turning to us to handle this thing that has happened. So that's one, like, in my mind, that's something that feels very, very important, is to better understand what council understands our role to be, what they hope for us, like what capacity they hope for us to serve.
Yeah, and within the charter that exists for us, how do they interpret that? And maybe that's an example of something that they interpret that's fully within the charter, and then we should absolutely be responding with some sort of procedural response, like you say, right? Like you're saying. I get it. So could we make that into an action item?
I'd be more than happy to kind of help with some of the template that we used for Arts Commission to kind of lay out a little bit of like the history and the changes and all that stuff. And then I would be happy to work with somebody if you're interested on putting together maybe how to put all this together in a package. So if anybody's interested, we could meet for coffee and work on it.
Yeah, Kim, I appreciate you offering that. I think because you did this with the Arts Commission, you have a good template, so no need to kind of reinvent the wheel there. I think, are there some other things though? Like, to me, that seems like such a baseline thing in terms of how it drives the rest of our work. But are there some other things that are questions, we want to pose to city council so that we can better do our work and better serve our communities?
And along with having, I guess, a greater mutual understanding of what we're doing here, we had also been working on possibly a name change. Was that something we were waiting on city council to provide some feedback on?
It was my understanding that we tabled that. Chair, was that your understanding? That we tabled
Yes.
that. Okay. In favor of continuing on the current name, based on feedback from councilmen and others. Yeah, that was my understanding.
We did talk about, we had one of the city council members, Dr. McGee, join us and talk a little bit about, have provided some guidance around keywords that may not be beneficial for this work, in terms of how we might need to do this work. And then ultimately we took this vote and saying, like, are we good to table this?
I would be interested in hearing from getting a better sense of the work that's being done internally in regards to equity, because I think that can either help or hinder the work that we're trying to do. If nothing's being done, then maybe at some point making recommendations for just some basic work to be done internally, and also definitely trying to understand the demographics of the employee base at the city, so that we can compare that to the demographics of our community. And I think there's some work that HRC can do around that as well, if that doesn't look right or matched up, or if we have concerns.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I said to you, Kim, kind of to tag along with what Tammy is saying is whether or not the city has an equity lens for decision making, equity lens for different processes that is actively being used. And if we could kind of have a better understanding about that.
Sure. And so, as far as trainings go, we have new onboarding. You do unconscious bias in the workplace, identifying and addressing bias, as well as preventing discrimination and harassment. Those are just the two basic ones that all employees go through. And then there are 36 additional trainings on regarding DEI that are available to us on an online platform that supervisors can ask their staff to do. And it ranges anything from microaggressions to, excuse me, why diversity matters, leveraging the power of inclusion, equity, and diversity, unconscious bias, interviewing with a DEI focus, global and cultural sensitivity, inclusive language, pronoun usage. So we have these available to us. I know in chatting with the other directors, whenever we do like team building or things like that, we try to have a bit of a DEI lens involved. But a lot of times it's not necessarily leading with those three letters at the top of the training, as we know that turns that'll shut some people down. And so trying to do it in a more organic way is what a lot of folks will work to do. As far as procurement, there isn't, there are state procurement laws that we follow. I believe that there are certain, if you are a minority or female-owned business, I believe that there are certain advantages to that. But it's also an incredibly complicated procurement process that involves a lot of insurance and paperwork. And so I can look into that a little bit more. But as far as like, this was the information that I was able to gather as far as like what is available currently to our staff as they come on board and as training tools that are available to supervisors.
I think
Thanks. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Bit of a delay there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chair. Okay. So if I think about the incidents, including going back to this incident that you were talking about, and I must say I don't have it fresh in my mind, all the details. I'd have to go back and review that. But I do. There's been a couple of those more than a couple of those, I think. Maybe 3 in the 3 years that I've been here. And those are significant, cases where individuals have experienced trauma in a public way and in a hate, maybe even in a hate way. And I know, there's law enforcement involved in some cases, and there's other resources sometimes to bring to bear. But going back to what the chair was saying, I think I'm sorry, don't know, have all the names. Commissioner Cochran was saying as well, is through this lens of DEI, whatever you want to call it, but through do we as a city have with those principles. In other words, you'll see, hate has no home here. Various messaging on city properties and in city artwork that is dedicated towards the community to just continue reinforce the mind that we are an inclusive and accepting community, and our aspirations is to be even more so as time continues on. We don't want to take a step back, right? We want to take a step forward, and that's what we're here for. And so I wonder if anybody has ever done or has anything written up specifically on the city's efforts from a communications standpoint, the general public, including all of the communications websites. Just the simple things that, as Miriam, when she was on the group, used to say about is everything going out in English and Spanish, as we do have a significant amount of Spanish speakers in this community, where it is their primary language. Those types of things, and that would be really interesting to see if something like that has been done, created for the city thus far, from an external, now not an internal, but an external standpoint. And if not, is there an opportunity for us as a commission, without a significant budget, keeping that in mind, opportunity for us as a commission to influence that sort of thing to happen? Does that make sense?
I realize we've also done a tremendous amount of work for the ADA transition plan across the city. And so, for example, we are just getting a brand new PowerPoint template that we're supposed to share to help with readability, accessibility. We have a training on it, I think, tomorrow or Thursday. Providing alt text and just providing some additional to make sure our communication isn't a barrier for folks who maybe experience a disability. So I forgot to talk all about those efforts as well. And I know there are some additional trainings that are coming with specifically working with members of certain communities to make sure that we are able to meet their needs and provide access to our services.
That's really helpful, Kim. And I think what I'm hearing, like Robin and what you're saying, Tammy, and what you're saying, my limited knowledge about, some aspects of city government, and but knowing that these exist is an equity audit. And so the ways in which, from all different processes, from a hiring process, procurement process, ongoing professional development, things like that, having a better understanding of the ways in which the city upholds or advocates for equity in the processes that go on here. And I do think, Tammy, to your point of just getting a demographic snapshot of the city employees, you can't, there have to be people with some of those lived experiences driving the change that the city wants to see in terms of, I know Kim, Parks and Rec has wanted more people who are bilingual, right? But it's very difficult. It's kind of a catch-22. Like if you don't have ways for people to get into that, you're not going to necessarily be seen as a place where that's where bilingual people work, So, this is just making me think that like one of the things that I think can be a primary point that we bring up when discussing with city council is like, what are the gaps in terms of an equity audit? What has been done and where are there gaps where we can kind of help ideate what that might look like.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing too from Kim, and I appreciate that, the list of the trainings and especially the ADA work that's being done, is whether or not the work, it sounds like internally it's a bit passive. And so that's going to show in the results of the demographics of the employee base at the city. And so I think just getting getting a sense of where directors are. So Kim, when you said not leading with DEI because that shuts some people down, like to me, that's how do we get, I'm sorry, I'm going off, but how does the city get to a point where leading with DEI is an okay thing to do, right? People are feeling more comfortable about that. And I think that having a list of trainings that employees can watch or attend, and it sounds like it's online, is a good start, right? But I think that if we have a better understanding of how it all works internally, then HRC, I think, can really help, or at least make recommendations on guiding some of that work internally, or getting some eyes on it. And like Chair talked about, the equity lens would also be something that I think we could help with if there isn't one in place already. So.
Yeah, because that exists in state agencies. I know the Oregon Department of Education has something that is established around the equity lens. And so I do think that this is an opportunity for Albany to, if it doesn't already exist, sounds like it doesn't, to really make that clear and commit to that important work, so that somebody doesn't go like, oh, I can't lead with DEI because it has a word in it that has become very politicized. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying like, this is actually this is doing work where I can actually serve my community and not just part of my community.
Agreed.
I was curious too, is there any way to track who has taken that, or how many people have taken the extra classes, trainings that aren't required?
It's a very good question. That's something that I have to check in with HR about. I don't have that power, but they're smart for not giving me that.
So Kim, I don't know if I think a couple of us will absolutely work with you. I'm happy to work with you on that, on coming up with, kind of that general presentation, those questions. But I don't know if it makes sense to just give like a tiny heads up to folks that like this question about, what are the equity processes, or it truly is a lens, like, like how is the city operating with equity at the forefront of how the city does its business? Because I think that, we do need to know that to be able to help, provide some guidance and recommendations. And it's really important that the city knows that. So if they're, in your city sphere of people, like if you can think about some of the key point people to be in communication with to better understand some of that, because my sense is that city council probably isn't going to know the depth of that because, you know, they're not full-time, you know, 40 hours a week with the city.
Kim, is this training also available to council members and also to us as commissioners? Can we sit through it or have access to it?
That is a great question. I believe council has access as they come on through, they're a part of the city network. I will have to get back to you on that. I don't know, but I'll find out.
Is it through your insurance company? Is it through CCIS?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
All right. Through the Linda or Lynn program or something like that? Yeah. Okay.
Well, sign me up, Kim. I'm willing to work on that with you. I don't know if somebody, Alyssa, was that you being like, me too? Yeah, okay. So we can communicate about a time. I think if we go past 3 of us, then it becomes the need to declare a public meeting. Is that correct? So if one other person is like, you put me in, coach, please, you know. Oh, Tammy, I know you have lots of city experience. You bring a lot of good questions. So, all right. So we'll work on coming together to work on a presentation for city council that we'll do, you know, after the new year, and get on the calendar for a work session.
I'll look, we have a meeting tomorrow, so I can look at what the calendar looks like for work sessions in February, and see if I can maybe get us on at the last one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next item of business is the HAC and NAACP representative sign up and other event involvement. I know that this is something that we'll need to start doing for the start of 2025, as the HAC had their last meeting today. And the NAACP, it should be this Thursday, but I have not seen anything go out about the meeting.
I saw something, I don't remember if it was on Facebook or on their page, but they are meeting online on Thursday.
On Thursday. Oh, wow. I'm okay. Well, I have it on my calendar to go. I just didn't see that it was happening. Okay. There are, if I look at the calendar of events, on the 21st with a question mark, there's the Winter Solstice Memorial for the Unhoused. I'm unfamiliar with this. Does anyone want to offer some information?
So I was just looking at that on the Chance Facebook page. There, did you say the 20th?
It says the 21st, but there's a question mark.
Okay. So on Chance's Facebook page, it says at the Second Chance Shelter on Friday the 20th at 5 p.m. First day of winter and the longest night of the year. Please join us in remembering our homeless brothers and sisters who died during 2024. So I can send you that, or someone you can get it right off their Facebook page.
Amy, if you don't mind sending it like as a follow-up to Eric and Kim, and they can send it out to all of us. Is anyone able to / planning to go?
I'll be going. Yeah.
You can be our rep.
Oh, sure. I'm also on the Chance board, so.
Doing it all. I wish I'm not going to be in town during that time. I wish I could go. But if anyone can join Tammy. And then before we meet in January, there's an NAACP meeting, as well as the HAC meeting is on the same day that we meet, right? So if we can get January and February lined up where we have people who are going to rep the HRC at these meetings. Let's do that. I will say with Lynn Benton, NAACP, you need to be a member. So if you're not a member and the cost is a barrier to you, I think it's $38 for the year. Maybe we can find some sponsorship, but I will happily take the January 9th meeting for the NAACP. Actually, no, I won't. I'm sorry. I can't. I realize I'm teaching a class on Thursday nights in January. So is anyone able to attend the NAACP meetings?
Yeah, I attended the one in September. I was not a member though, so I don't know if I have it particularly in the budget for that or not in January, but I will, I'd be happy to attend if that's waivable or whatever in the short term.
I think Robin, if you're willing to stay on as the rep to NAACP, I think that we could probably ask them if they're able to waive that.
Sure. Yeah. They meet every month, don't they?
Every month on the second Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's a commitment. I would. I'd sure be interested in doing that. Yeah. But,
Okay.
just couldn't guarantee I could make every one. Of course.
Yeah, sure, that's understandable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's you and I communicate about that, and I can see about reaching out to. I know they're kind of going through the similar change at the start of the year. They're going to have a
Right.
new lineup in terms of who's leading. So
Right.
let's try to make sure though that we have people attending, and that a big reason why they're trying to make sure that it's people who are members is I think they had like a pretty horrible thing happen at an event that they were putting on. So they're trying to really make sure that the people who are there for the right reason.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay. So then Robin, you're our tentative then for January at NAACP meeting. And Tammy, did you want to continue to do that for the hack?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
And it's the fourth Thursday, same as our.
It's the same day. Yeah, same day as ours.
Okay, sure.
Awesome. Let's see. I think beyond that, now it's just business from members.
I'll go with my updates from the Community Development Commission, where I represent this group on that commission as well as vice chair of that group. There's a new housing plan that's being rolled out to City Council, I believe, tomorrow. And one of the key components of that plan is asking for a fee structure that supports additional, for lack of a better word, revenues to be extended for affordable housing. And so these fees to be put on to development and building projects within the city would generate a significant amount of additional funds that would become available for right now. The commission disperses the CDD funding, which has been going on for years and years, declining in impact, and so or the amount just available for the most part. Is everybody here? Did you lose me? Did I lose you?
We lost you.
Oh, great. What did you hear last? What did I say last?
The funding had been declining.
Yeah, the funding had been declining. So, but anyway, so this group continues to then um, take in applications, and of course, and approve applications for that funding, and hopefully this new funding source will become available to this group as well to distribute it. And so that's the news there. And there was also a movement to try to get a homelessness task force established at the city level, since the city dispersed its centralized camping as a result of the Supreme Court decision in grant relating to grants passed. The need for looking at houselessness and on a citywide scale potentially could be served by what other cities do, and actually having task forces that address that, including the folks that are camping now all over the woods and parks of our community and are forced to go so far for services and that sort of thing. And so I drafted a letter. I helped draft a letter, and we're in the process of potentially putting that in front of council, I guess, voting on it as a group, but then putting it in front of council in January. Now, I will say there is a homelessness task force of sort that does exist, and I'm sure at the law enforcement level, with city agencies that address very, very specific needs for specific individuals, and that sounds like an awesome group. I've never had the opportunity to go to that, but that's not what this is. This is more of a systemic sort of task force for the city. So, any questions about that? I know it's a lot to cover in 30 seconds.
I don't know, Robin, it might be. I'm wondering. So I know there's the housing affordability task force. How have they kind of interacted with your all's work?
Well, I don't think I mean, I think they have. I think they've come before the community commission. I don't know exactly when, but it seems to me that they have. I may be mistaken, but it's not something that we regularly meet with. And there are certain individuals on the commission and individuals that we see on a yearly basis from the various agencies that apply for funds that I believe are involved in those efforts as well. So, I mean, we don't want to be redundant, but at the same point, the need is there, I think. And, so I definitely would like a feedback from this group as to where you see the needs now existing, and what could the city do as a community since that change has occurred, that recent change.
I used to go to the meeting that is led by Hillary. I can't remember her last name, in the fire department.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the.
And do you go to that one, Robin?
I haven't. I want to go to it, but I haven't.
Yeah, so that does have all the players at the table that provide services. And they do have one section where they do some case management, but they also talk about, how do we get a detox center? How do we get more funding for a bigger shelter? So in my mind, it is kind of that homeless task force that it's broader, right? Because homelessness is,
Sure.
Yeah, people are moving, it goes into the county and the city. And
Yeah.
So having one that's just specific to the city, I'm not sure it would address different things than what that group is, but
Okay.
maybe some would want to go to that and check it out, and maybe have an HRC rep at that meeting.
Yeah, there would be. I definitely want to go to that. There was at least another person on that commission that wanted to go to that, on the community development. Yeah, and I was under the impression, like having not gone to it, just from the feedback I'd have, that it was mainly case management. So I'm glad to hear that there's some of the more, I guess, strategy stuff in there. So that's great.
Right.
I'll definitely take that back to the group.
Thanks, Robin. I mean, one of the things that just comes up for me is I think this is really good. Another good place for an equity lens conversation, right? It's amazing how you can bring it to so many different places. Any other business from members?
Okay, I'm sorry. The meeting is tomorrow. The meeting that I was talking about, the homeless task force, they're meeting again tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you're interested in attending.
Yeah, I was told I needed to contact Hillary at the fire department for that.
Oh, okay.
But I'll try. I mean, what time is it? Do you know by any chance?
I think it's like at 10 o'clock, but they don't,
Yeah.
I'm reading an email, but it just says our meeting tomorrow, but it doesn't have the time. So I believe it's at 10 though.
Yeah. Well, I'll reach out to him. If I can't get to the one tomorrow, I'll try to get to the one in January.
Yeah, right.
Any other business from members before we move to staff updates? Kim, do you have any staff updates for us beyond what you shared?
Sure, we took quite a few off my list. So the last one is that I've come into contact with somebody who works for the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, who works in their historic preservation cultural resources department, and we were talking about public art. And so he has offered to come down, as he's also on the Oregon Arts Commission, to potentially do a presentation on the cultural geography of Albany, include examples of other Indigenous like public art and creative public art programming from around the state. So I had an Arts Commission meeting from 3:30 until 5 today. So they said that they were interested in that. So I wanted to let you all know, as I'll probably be reaching out to David for sometime maybe in March, and that I think that would be a great opportunity to invite also HRC members to come if they're interested in that presentation, to kind of just, learn a little bit more and get creative juices and seeing if there's maybe something appropriate that we'd be able to work on together.
Love it.
That's
awesome.
great.
And that's all I've got.
With that, the agenda says our next meeting date is January 23rd, 2024. I am not a time traveler, but I assume that it is actually the 28th.
Of 2025?
Yeah. Is that right?
That is correct. I just looked up on the calendar. Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay.
The 28th of January.
Awesome. So with that, I hope everyone has a great new year, and a great end to 2024.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.